Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Casey Callum with Express Information Systems. I'm joined by my colleagues Raina Camargo and Stacy Campbell. And today we will be presenting Martus Budgeting Software. Bill Cox is going to be presenting the system to us. Martus is a system that is integrated with Sage Intacct. It's been around the Sage Intacct world for a long time. It's a very easy to use system, quick to get up and running, and it allows you to create your budget and report against that budget, all within Sage Intacct. I'm going to turn it over to Bill Cox, and he will show us a demo of Martus. For anyone that needs CPE credits, please stay till the end, and you will receive an evaluation form. Please fill that form back in, and we'll send your CPE credits over to you. And if you do need to zoom in or out to make the screen bigger or smaller, there's a plus button and a minus button on the right side. Just click those and you can zoom in and out yourself. And if anybody has any questions, please enter those into the chat box, and I will read those off to Bill, and he'll answer them accordingly. So with that, it's all yours, Bill.
Thank you very much. Again, Bill Cox here from Martus. And we're all about, and certainly delighted that you were joining us, and we're all about smarter budgeting and reporting. Our application is cloud-based. It enables your team to create, execute, and analyze budgets with ease. We've been around for about 13 years, and we started out with the intention of helping organizations to have a much easier experience producing budgets. We have over 11,000 users of our software currently. Martus is very supportive of a collaborative budgeting process that makes it easy to include your team or your budget managers, your department leaders, whatever, in the budgeting process. And we're going to talk about budget worksheets in a minute, but we make it easy to include them without having to use cumbersome spreadsheets. You can budget faster because those budget templates that your budgeters would need to complete are created automatically in seconds at the beginning of the budgeting process. We also have things like a robust personnel budgeting module that makes that budgeting personnel costs much easier and faster. We also allow you to budget smarter because you get to see up to the minute status of each budget area. You can also spot easily things that look out of bounds. We give you the ability to do multi-year forecasting, rolling forecast, do what-if analysis. We, corresponding to our collaborative budgeting approach, we allow those same budget managers to be able to monitor their progress against their budget, even to the point of being able to drill down to the transaction level. And all of that adds up, helping your organization or company meet its mission. I mentioned collaborative budgeting. These budget worksheets are defined by maybe a combination of dimensions in Sage Intacct that represent a budget area. They could be a combination of a location and a department, or a location and department and a project, whatever fits the way you budget. They have the current year activity and budgets on them to use as a reference, and those get updated because we're updating from Sage Intacct on a daily basis automatically. Helpful widgets, optimize budget entry, plus the ability to put in line item notes, and you can analyze the budget for reasonableness. Now I'm going to pop out and show you a budget worksheet. This is what a budget worksheet looks like. Again, these get created automatically with one click of a button in a matter of seconds at the beginning of your budget process. This particular budget worksheet is defined by this location, 100 general, department, food service, and a non-project project. And the budget worksheets each have the current year activity at the top. This happens to be a calendar year fiscal year, and if you imagine October is the last month we closed, the reference information here is actuals January through October, budget numbers for the 2 remaining months that we haven't closed yet, and the total is where you land if you meet budget the rest of the year in this particular department, let's say. And this is the last column is the total annual budget for this department. These actuals are all hyperlinked, so I can actually click on them to see the transactions that make up that number, to remind myself of why we spent $5,000 more in September than we did the other months for program supplies. Also, if there were notes on the previous budget, you can see them by hovering over the amounts that have them, as well as clicking on this icon, let you see them all at once. Then you have fill in the blank budget. These budget worksheets are pre-populated with all of the activity by account, in this case, that occurred during the current year, either actuals, budget numbers, or both. So you don't have to build a budget template. These are built automatically. And there's several ways you can enter budget numbers. You can just type numbers in these cells and enter budget numbers, but that's rarely used. You can create budget numbers from using the current year activity as a reference, like for these 5 budget lines, I'm going to use this initialize function. And for those budget lines, I'm going to use actuals through October, budget numbers for November and December, and I'm going to mark them up 3%. So those budget lines get filled in just in that manner by marking up those travel transportation, for example, by 3% over what's happened so far this year. Also, the most popular way of entering budget numbers is to use what we call the budget widget. This little calculator looking icon allows me access to that. So for postage and shipping, I have the opportunity just to type in budget numbers and notes like so, or I can use this adjustment type to spread a weekly number, a bi-weekly number, a monthly number, a quarterly number, an annual number, and I'll divide it by 12. You can adjust what's there by a percentage. You can add additional amounts to any given month without having to use a calculator. I can allocate an annual amount based on the current year spending pattern, or our year just for this one line item. I'm going to use weekly as an example, and we're going to do spend money on postage and shipping at $125 a week on each Friday. And if I click the preview button, it determines the monthly budget amount based on the number of Fridays in the month times 125. I can put a note in that says, and I can vary it by month. For example, I could say in the middle of the year, we're going to go up some. But anyway, this is a way you can put in notes. And if I save that, it not only populates that budget line, but it turns the little calculator icon blue to let me know the notes there. But I can just hover over the month that has them and see what they are. Now, these entering budget numbers this way is fairly simple and straightforward. Most non-financial types can manage them. But there are occasions when you want to do some Excel-like things to come up with budget numbers, and we provided a mechanism to do that, what we call a special purpose worksheet. This one happens to be tied to that same department, the 120 food pantry. And this SPW, we call them for short, allows me to do Excel-like things. I have several examples here. For example, I have 4 software subscriptions that are all hitting the same budget line, but I'm able to itemize them and then add them all up together to come up with the budget line. For example, I have Intac renewing in April, Martus in July, Nexonia is monthly, and Wells Fargo is quarterly starting in February. And I have this budget widget that helps me fill all that in. Likewise, I have janitorial services. I have 6 different types of janitorial services that are all hitting the same budget line, this account 5503. Labor and a monthly expense, supplies weekly, lawn maintenance weekly, hedge trimming only happens in March and October, and vacuuming is weekly, and the deep cleaning happens quarterly at the beginning of each quarter. And down in the summary section, I've got all of those dues and subscriptions added together along with the concatenation of all the notes that I entered on each one. So basically I was able to itemize 5 different software subscriptions, or 4, and it added the numbers together, concatenated all the notes I put in, and that's what we roll into the budget. Janitorial services in the same manner. Then I have the ability to do calculations. We can serve a number of membership and trade associations. In this membership area, I've got a renewal rate for level 1. I've got the number of members renewing each month at level 1. And then I have a calculation of to get the revenue from level 1 by multiplying the fee, the renewal fee, times the number of members renewing. And that gets me that revenue. I repeat the same thing for level 2, which has a different renewal rate, different number of members renewing, and 3. In the summary section, it adds all 3 up together in this membership fee, adds all 3 numbers together and the notes. And then I have a senior living example where I've got this many beds in a facility, the number of days in the month, the occupancy rate, and a daily bed charge. And in order to get the bed revenue, I multiply the number of beds times the number of days in the month times the occupancy times the daily bed rate, and that gives me that revenue. So you have a lot of capability there. And then when I'm satisfied with all these calculations, I can post it to that worksheet I was just on. It's not in the budget until I'm satisfied with it. And if I go back to that worksheet and refresh it, I can see the results. This is the membership revenue here. You can see the notes roll over. Also can't change these numbers. I have to go back to the SPW. This is the bed revenue. And this is the dues and subscriptions. You can see where each software application kicks in based on the notes and the meal expense. And you can also add approvers to each budget worksheet, which will get an email, tell them they need to approve it once it's submitted. And they can also deny it and explain why. You can also add documents. I'm going to submit this. It doesn't go anywhere. It just flags it as submitted, but it also locks the entire budget worksheet so the user can't make any more changes while you're trying to get it approved. I'm going back to my PowerPoint. We also speed up the budgeting process. These the automatic creation of these budget worksheets, the flexibility and the ease of use of them can speed up the process. Personnel also for many organizations happens to be quite a chore, especially if you have, 30, 50, 100. We have some customers that have 2,000 employees, and our personnel budgeting makes it fairly easy to budget personnel. You can upload the employee compensation and benefits from a payroll export. You can budget the details for all wages, salaries, and benefits. You can allocate personnel expenses to multiple dimensions or grants or whatever, and you can support taxable and non-taxable personnel positions. And let me get this thing out of the way here. This is my personnel budgeting module. In personnel budgeting, we allow you to have multiple scenarios. What if health insurance goes up 20% instead of 15? What if we add more people, take away more people, what have you? And these scenarios, you can have as many scenarios you need, and when you're satisfied with your personnel budget, you can push it into the consolidated budget. This positions tab allows me to see all of the employees/positions that I have in this particular database. And once you get the details in here, it's basically a couple clicks, and your personnel budget data, line items are done. I can look at a particular employee, like Jennifer Barnes, and I can see all our pay and benefit types. We support almost any kind you can imagine, from bonuses that are based on longevity and anniversary date, retirement matches that are based on longevity. You control the taxable flag, whether you have employees that are not subject to FICA tax. And this is Jennifer Barnes' home dimensions. I can also filter any of these employees by their position name, their title, their employee type, and any dimension. The detail tab actually calculates the monthly budget amount for each pay and benefit type for each employee. I can do things like select all the people that are on salary that work in this department. And you can see all of the monthly budget amounts for each line item there. I could select some or all of these employees and decide, for example, mid-year to budget a 3% pay increase. And when the screen refreshes, you'll see that July is now slightly higher than June, except for Heather McGarrison, who's leaving us at the end of June. And you can repeat that for groups of employees or particular dimensions, etc. The summary tab actually is like the summary section at the bottom of the SPW, in that it summarizes all the personnel budget data or budget items into the budget lines they affect. In this particular case, I have dimensions of location, department, and project plus the account. And these are the budget lines for all my personnel. I can also see total employee cost, personnel cost in rows, including their benefits, like so. But when we do have the ability to allocate employees to multiple departments or multiple locations, multiple grants, whatever you need to do there as well. But when I'm finished with my personnel budget, I can push it into the consolidated budget. You can see I have 10 different versions of the same fiscal year budget, which is way overkill, especially when you're just now creating a budget for the next year. But I pick the one I want to push the personnel budget data into, click this orange post button, and then it goes just much like the SPW. Budget Smarter. We also allow you, it's not like when you have spreadsheets spread around to different employees and they're working on them, but you don't know what they've done so far. We allow you to view the budget process as it happens, even if budget worksheets have not been submitted. You can view the status of each budget area. You can analyze the budget for reasonableness. You can have as many versions of the same fiscal year budget, including rolling forecasts, and easily make mid-year budget adjustments. I'm going to show you now how you can analyze the budget. I wish I could get rid of this thing here, it won't slide. Here we go. The planner summary is a reporting tool on the budget. It allows me to control what I have in rows and columns. And this is the budget as it stands right now with accounts and rows. I'm going to come back there. There's also a worksheet status report that allows me to see how each budget area works. I can see their bottom line. I didn't explain targets. We would be happy to do that if you need a demo. I can show the difference between the bottom line and the target, and who's responsible for entering the budget and who the approvers are. This second one here is the one I submitted, and it's waiting on Bill Cox and Tammy Bunting to approve. If I want to see more about any particular budget area, I can click the edit button, and it'll actually take me to the budget worksheet so I can see all the details. I'm going to go back to the planner summary. Currently have accounts and rows. I can have in columns, I can have months, which is what you're seeing now. I can have the location dimension in columns, the department dimension in columns, the project dimension in columns to see things, whatever having rows side by side by any of those. But I have a unique column view called budget analysis. And this is going to allow me to be able to spot things that look out of bounds. For whatever I have in rows, I can see what the year-to-date actuals to the year-to-date budget are for each of these accounts, what the variance is, what the total current year budget is versus the proposed budget, what the difference is, and the percent difference. I can put department bottom lines in rows and get the same column comparison. Like so. For example, I can see that the counseling services department's new budget is almost 48% higher in the new budget than it is in the current budget. If I want to know why, I can click on that department and I get an account view of that department with the same column comparisons. I can sort these differences high and low, which lets me spot the fact that there was a grant of $250,000 in the current year budget that's not in the new budget. And also, I've got a couple of expense accounts that are way higher in the new budget than the current budget. I can do that same thing for all departments just by clicking an expand button and see the same details for each department all at once. Then when you're finished with your budget, if you're using Intact, the way to get it into Intact is you can pick the budget in Martus you want to send to Intact. Then this drop down has a list of all the budget IDs in Intact. I can pick the one I want to send it to, click this orange upload button, and up the budget goes to Intact through the API without you having to populate any template. Also, all those line item notes that you enter in the Martus budget get posted to Intact. We also have a pre-built reporting package that as soon as we connect to a customer's Intact data or any accounting system for that matter and upload their history, they have immediate reporting capability with lots of flexibility. That's all pre-built based on the way the financial structure in the accounting system. You have extensive budget actual comparisons. You can drill down to the transaction level. The data is always current because we have automated updates from the accounting system, and you can restrict users to only what you want them to see. Now I'm going to show you some reports. This is the graphical portion of our reporting system. And again, this is a calendar year, fiscal year. October is the last month we closed. All these graphs default from January to October. This first graph shows income is the blue bar, the red dot is expense, and these white boxes you got year-to-date income, expense at the bottom line. And for income, expense at the bottom line, we compare each month to the same month prior year and the red dot's budget. And these white boxes this year, last year, the difference, the budget, and the variance. Top 10 income accounts and top 10 expense accounts in these pie charts. I can alter the pie charts to be what we call account categories, which are groups of account. I can change the graphs to show quarterly instead of monthly. I can also limit it to a certain department. And these graphs will all reflect that. So now I've only got this department, counseling services. The graphs are showing quarterly results. And the pie charts are now showing our groups of accounts instead of individual accounts. For example, I made up these categories myself. You would be able to do the same. I've got restricted income, unrestricted income, and investment income, for example, that each represent groups of accounts. And the same thing in the expense side. I can change the graphs to reflect years. And I could have the pie charts show me departmental participation in income and expense. You have 2 years worth of data in this database. So now I get to see years side by side. And now the pie charts show each department's participation in income as well as expense. I'm going to go back to the top here and show you a couple report examples. For example, this is an income statement, and this version will have accounts in rows and months in columns. It's showing me actuals January through October side by side for each account, and this is at the top of your financial chain. Compares October to its budget, shows the variance for October. Red is bad, black is good. Year-to-date actual budget, variance to annual budget, how much is remaining. These actuals are also hyperlinked, much like I showed you on the budget worksheet. If I click on a number, it will actually makes a live call to Intact to pull the transactions that make up that 26,000 plus number. I get to see the date, the amount, the memo, the vendor if it's there, and all the dimension tags. If there were a source document attached to any of these transactions, there would be a little paper clip next to the transaction that I could click on and actually view the document. I clicked on a May number, but I could expand that to be January to May if I so choose, and I can easily and quickly get the transactions for that time frame. I could even change the account to something else and see the transactions quickly for that time period here as well. I can also drill down on the budget. For example, on other professional fees. I can click on the budget and I can see where those budget numbers came from. I can see each department that budgeted other professional fees. If they put notes in, I can click on that little icon and see them, as well as hover over the amounts that have notes and see what they are there. This allows me to see where those budget numbers came from. I can change the rows to be account categories, and I can change the columns to be the current month and year to date. And I get this view. I've got a summarized view of how October stacks up against its budget. We hit the trailing months, still got year-to-date budget to actual and the annual budget, how much is remaining. If I want to know more about this personnel category, if I click on it, it'll actually give me an account view of all the accounts associated with personnel and how they stack up against budget. I can change the columns to be departments. And I could see each of these categories side by department, or any dimension for that matter. So I could see personnel spending by department side by side, travel spending by department side by side, etc. I can do a forecast report. And this basically shows me actuals for whatever I have in rows, actuals through October, budget numbers for the 2 months we haven't closed yet, the totals where I'd land if I meet budget the rest of the year versus the annual budget, and what the difference in percent difference would be. I can change the rows to be departments, bottom lines, and get the same forecast there. And I can click on one of these departments and it'll give me an account view forecast for that department. I can do a monthly budget comparison. I clicked on the wrong, this is a worksheet budget comparison that shows every combination of these dimensions and how they stack up against budget. But I meant to click on this monthly budget comparison. And whatever I have in rows, I can see how they stack up against budget each month. Anything you see on the screen, you can export to Excel. Planner summary, you can do that as well. You can print it or analyze it further. You can also save reports, which basically remembers all the selections you made when you saved it. For example, I picked this account categories by location report that I'd saved earlier, and it remembers that that's an income statement that has account categories in rows and locations in columns. And there's much more to our reporting than I have time to show you here, but so why choose Martus? First of all, we're cloud-based. We have a seamless Sage Intacct integration, typical within an hour after we connect to a customer's Intacct data. Everything that I've shown you so far would work, as well as other stuff. And you would just need to be trained. Rapid implementation with a fixed fee. Implementations typically take 1 to 2 weeks from the time we have an agreement. We update our software at least monthly with new features and a very easily achievable ROI based on the ease of use of our software, which saves, also has a lot of time savings associated with that. Timely decision support information we provide with our reporting, and very affordable pricing. Here's what some of our customers say about us. This is Becky Heath at a membership association of people in the travel industry, how much their team loved Martus and how easy it is to budget. And this is a large church in Florida that also has, I think, 150 or 60 users using Martus. So that's the end of my presentation, and I'm certainly ready to take questions. If you certainly, if you are interested in Martus, you can contact the folks at Express Information System, and they can help you learn more.